Good morning and welcome back to the show. Some of my favorite episodes is when I bring you badass women because there are so many women on the online space, especially mothers that are crushing it. So I can't think of a better person to bring you today than my amazing friend, Ryann. I'm so excited that you're here.
Hi, Nellie. I'm so excited to be here.
So you are a mom
I
and
am.
you're running two businesses,
I am.
and that is not always celebrated
Yeah.
to be a mom, to be a working mom, and on top of that, run two businesses. So, how do you navigate this and really rebel against the status quo and like the chatter of you should, you should, you should? Like,
Mhm.
let's just like dive in and be rebels together.
Yeah, absolutely. So, oh gosh, how do we navigate all of it? So the first thing, my biggest opportunity to rebel against the status quo is that my husband stays home with the kids. And he's been home for 3 years now. So it's since like we made the decision right before COVID just sped up our timeline. So we had like a 6-month plan. It wound up being a 6-week plan. And so Kevin's been home with the kids for 3 years now. And it's been a game changer for our family. It's been so huge. And it was always going to be that way. Entrepreneurship, like I said, just accelerated it. So I traveled for a living in my corporate job. Like it was never going to be me. I was never going to be the parent who got the call from daycare or, hey, your kid has a fever. It was never going to be me. But we really flipped that on its head back in 2020. And it's interesting. It's interesting, Nellie, navigating it inside of our marriage, but it's also interesting navigating it externally as well. A lot of people have a lot of feelings about that. Good, bad, and otherwise, right? Some people think it's amazing. Other people think it's weird. Some people are like, strange, like, are you emasculating your husband? And so that's probably the one that's the most bold for us that, yeah, we just threw it out the window and did it the way we wanted to do it.
When people give you their opinions, do you like smile and nod or do you like reframe it? Like what's your response? Because I think it can be uncomfortable in those situations, whether it's your husband stays home or you make a lot of money. Like people
Right.
can just like put so much like of
Yeah.
their own opinion on you that you're just like, oh, I don't know how to like respond to this.
I mean, I do a lot of smiling, nodding, or like my favorite thing is like everybody has to do what works best for their family. Like that's my favorite response. Like everybody has to do
I
what works
love
best for
that.
their family.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
so good. That gives them things to think about too, because I think there's just so much conditioning that we
Right.
like we operate, and a lot of times people don't mean it in a mean way, but it can be
No,
hurtful. Like
sure.
I remember when we had Boone and I was in the hospital responding back to a couple clients because I genuinely wanted to, like it gave me life to like
Right.
remind me of like there's something else, and somebody truly like scolded me for it. She was like, shame on you. And I was like, this was my choice. Like we should be like cheering each other
Yes.
on. Like,
No,
and
I
yeah.
loved watching you go through everything when you had the baby because I was not as far along in my journey. So my full-time entrepreneurship journey was on the heels of the birth of my youngest. So I used her maternity leave as my runway. Georgia will be 4 in June. And I was not as bold as you. I did not show up. And it wasn't because I didn't want to show up. It was because I didn't want the judgment. I was
Yes.
like, I was like, oh my God, what are people going to think? That it's like, I'm like, well, she's asleep. I could work. But what are
Right.
people going to think? And so I think I actually boxed you after that happened because you posted about it. And I was like, kudos to you for owning that. Because at the time I didn't have the confidence to own it. Now I would. I'd be like,
Yeah.
unless you're cutting a check for this house, then your opinion can go where it goes. But at the time I didn't have that confidence. So I hid for like 2 or 3 weeks longer than I really wanted to in my maternity leave because I was afraid of the exact judgment that you got.
Yeah, and like if that would have been with baby number 1,
Yep.
I would have truly like it could have been mentally harmful because it like we just don't recognize like our words hurt like,
Yeah.
and like it took me a minute to like emotionally regulate that, but I was so much stronger because of it. I was like, this is the exact reason why I'm doing what I'm doing. Like
Right.
so women do not feel alone and that they can
Yes.
earn money, and like it gets to be
Yes.
on their terms. Like there's
Yes.
you don't have to work for corporate and you don't have to stay home. There is another way. So
Sure.
I just love that you're a good example of that.
Thank you.
So, all right. So you're running two businesses
Yes.
and like still a mom, like even though hubby is staying home, like there's still needs for your family. how are we doing all of this?
Well, step number one is like a really strong team. And this is kind of like, these are, you're like teeing me up perfectly. Because the one is like, my husband stays home. And two, there's no way in hell I'm doing this alone. And this is like the biggest thing that I wish successful women would tell other women, is that like, I didn't do it by myself. Right. Because, and I know I thought it, like when I was still working full time and, side hustling and had a baby and was pregnant with baby number 2, I just assumed everybody was juggling all the plates, because that's what I was doing, right? I was spinning all the plates and I was like, look at me, I'm superwoman. I'm working and I'm momming and I'm volunteering and I'm doing all this other stuff. Not knowing that burnout was right around the corner. Right. But there's a lot of help. There's a lot of help. So I have an incredible team inside of the business. I have 2 full-time employees. They are incredible humans. I love and adore them with my whole heart. And so I really get to stay in my zone of genius in the business. I like to talk to people. I like to solve problems for my clients, and that's it. Like, that's what I do. And so I don't do anything else inside of the business except for the things that are really my things to own. I can, and of course I pinch hit where occasion, but like day to day 80-20 rule, right? 80% of my time is dedicated to the things that I'm good at. And so that allows me to not have to work all the time, because I'm not doing stuff that's not mine. I don't do anything in the business that's not mine. Again, pinch hit, but 80-20, I don't do anything that's not mine. So that's the first how. The second how is systems and processes, right? Like the more, almost everything we do in our business, even in our lives, guys, like even so my husband makes my son lunch every morning. He's a kindergartner for like 5 more minutes. Oh my God.
Oh yeah.
But there's a system, and it was me that saw. I was like, "What are we doing? Like, why does it look different every morning?" It's the same thing. I mean, it might be a PB&J instead of ham and cheese, instead of a bean and cheese burrito, because that's what my kid asks for some days. But like, it looks the same. Systemize it. Like, why are you making this harder than it has to be? Everything is always in the same place. So now the 6-year-old can go get all the things and put it on the counter so dad can make him lunch, right? So it's at home and and in the business, right? Like my children know when they take a bath, because they bathe in my bathroom, because why would they have their own bathroom? Their clothes come off and they have their own hamper in somebody's closet, right? It's in my husband's closet. We have his and hers closets. It's bougie. I love it. But they know, they go in there, right? That's where they go. So that's just the system. So instead of picking baby clothes up, and now the kids know, go pick your clothes up, because now we have a dog. So I'm like, well, if you leave it on the floor, it's gone. So you like that sock? You should put it in the hamper. But anyway, I just use that as an example of like having systems and processes. So many things in our lives and our businesses are the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over again. So finding a way to automate, duplicate, delegate is probably the second way. And then the third way I think that we really get all the things done is just a lot of let go and let God. Like there's so much shit that we try to control that we have no business controlling. And that's been the hardest lesson, and a lesson I still have to learn every day, Nellie. But I think to me, that's really how it all gets done, is I've just let go, just Jesus, take the wheel and let's go.
Yes. Cue Carrie Underwood. Like we need her in our life, because it's so true. And like, obviously you are the queen at sales, and like in order to like pay a team, we need money coming in. Yes. So like, what have been like your tried and true sales strategies that have helped you grow over all the years?
Yeah, human to human connection, period, end of story. And it's been my superpower. I started selling radio advertising at the age of 21 in 2005. And it was always about people. That was it. It was always about people. It was, at the time, it was belly to belly, right? Like our manager was like, I want you belly to belly as often as possible. The more people you could like get in front of them, build relationships. And so that's always been my jam from a sales perspective. Like I've never really gotten into the whole concept of just like put it out there and let them come. Like if you want to talk to me, and I'm obviously not taking sales calls for, $12 products, but if you want to DM me and ask me a question, of course you can, right? We also like the one thing I think it's missed. So not just the inbound, but the outbound aspect of some people need to be invited in and be okay with that. So when somebody's like creeping on my content, and I notice that they're liking and following and they're commenting and they're interacting, reaching out. Hey, Nellie, thanks so much for the love. Like, what's going on? Who are you? How's it going? And we have gotten more clients that way than waiting for people to come to us, because we were like, hey, we see you. And that's our most basic human need, is to feel seen, heard, and ever understood. So everything we do from a sales perspective covers that.
Yeah, I love that. And do you know anything about human design? Like,
I do. I know
So
enough projectors.
Yeah. So projectors need that. They need the invitation and they will wait on the sidelines
Yes.
until someone's like, knock, 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 let's go, like come to the party. So I
Yes.
love that you do both because like generators, they're just going to make up their own mind and like they're
Right.
going to like when you're sleeping, they'll be the ones that pay and you're
Mhm.
like, oh, yay, I made money in my sleep. Projectors typically don't do that.
What do manifesting generators do? Because that's what I'm doing. And I know what I do, but I'm curious across the board, how do
So
they buy?
I think they're very similar to generators. So they may be actually a little bit more impulsive than generators because generators are moving so fast that they're like, oh, I want to do that, but kind of like ADHD, like, oh,
Yeah.
I like squirrel moment. So manifesting generators, I think they're more like, oh, I see it, I want it, I'm going to do it right now.
Yes.
Like, so they're probably even faster than generators. So
That's true. So that rings true for me. I'm like, yes.
yeah,
I'm like
yeah.
never on a sales call until I like can't figure out how to buy without the sales call. That's usually me. I'm like, where's the buy now button? What are we doing?
I know. One of my biggest, this actually just happened yesterday, and I think you'll laugh at it. I want this software so bad for something, and it's not like a huge high ticket amount. You cannot buy it without a sales call.
It's the
And
best.
I'm like, so like, give me the button I want to buy. Like, I totally love welcoming people to a sales call, but like,
Right.
don't prevent people. Like, they would have had a sale yesterday for me, like paid in full for the year. Like,
Yeah.
why do we have to get on a sales call? Like my time is so valuable. If I already know I'm going to buy and I don't have questions, like give me the freaking button. So I know you would love that.
Yeah, and it's true and I won't take the sales call. And then the problem, you know what I do? I then put my ops manager on a sales call, and that's the last thing you want because she's like, let me tell you why this sucks. These are all the reasons why this is not going to work in our business. Like if you want to sell something to somebody, you want to sell it to me, not her. But if you don't make it easy for me, you're going to have to sell it to her and not going to go well.
Yes. I bet she's a projector thing because projectors like to stew on things and think about it. Oh, that's so good. That's so good. So how as women can we feel safe being more rebellious, especially online? Because it can be, especially because of the judgment that you shared. So like, how did you go from fearful of the judgment to like, I'm going to run 2 businesses, be a badass, you know, mom boss and not apologize for it? Like what happened in between there?
It was really the relationship with me, right? Like I really started to trust myself and own it in a really powerful way where it was just like, I'm going to stop apologizing for who I am, right? Like I'm just going to stop doing it. And it's hard and it's scary and it doesn't always go the way that I want it to. Like there's not, I think there's so much portrayed in marketing land in general that it's like, if you just do this, it'll be easy. And I'm like, no, I just do this. And some days it's not easy, but I do it anyway. Right. Like that's the part is like, you can feel fear and do it anyway. Like that's the magic. So for me, it was like, I was afraid, but I did it anyway. And that I think is what, and then it's like a muscle, right? It's just like anything else where you just, you know, the more you train the muscle, the more natural it becomes. And it was really funny. I hosted a retreat. It was in January of 2022. There were like 8 of us at this house in Scottsdale. And
it looked amazing.
It was, that was the one we just did, but this is good. It was so good. We're hosting another event in September for anybody who wants to come with us. But so this is a year and a half ago, but I wanted to do like a quick live to show everybody the house. And like, I just pushed go live and I started talking and I showed the room and we got off and like 3 of the girls were like, you didn't even think about that. Like you didn't even prep for that. You just like pushed the button. You were like, oh, I should show everybody the house. And I pushed the button and I went. And I realized that it was because it was a muscle. I was like, do you know how many times I've just pushed the button? You know, I used to plan and take all the notes and do all the things, but the more you do it, it's like a muscle. And for me, it's like an athlete can perform, right? A tennis player can just get up and go play tennis. I mean, they should warm up. They don't have to, right? They can just go play tennis. Like for me, it's become such a muscle to show up and to serve and to do it. And then a big part of it for me is like my personal mission. I believe God put me on this planet to put more money and more power in the hands of women. And if I don't talk about all of the things that I am doing, including my husband stays home and we have a shit ton of help and I run 2 businesses and this and that. And I just got dumped by my friends of 18 years by learning they all planned a trip to New York without me all at the same time. Like if I don't tell that story, then some other woman thinks that it's just her. right? Or that she has to figure it out alone. So a large part of what I share on the internet, I share because if I'm feeling it or a woman in my community is feeling it, then other women are feeling it too. And I don't know why I feel this is maybe a little bit of the martyr in me where I'm like, well, somebody's got to fall on the sword and it might as well be me because I'm strong enough to handle the backlash.
Oh, yes. Well, and I was going to ask you too, like, these are a lot of emotions, right? On top of like, supporting your kids too, which also they have a lot of emotions. So
Yes.
like, how do you hold emotionally all of this? Like, what have you found to work really well for you from just like taking care of you mentally, physically, emotionally, all of it?
Yeah, meditation and exercise are my two like things. And I couldn't meditate for the longest time because I thought it meant something that it didn't. But now like just sitting, like I can't even listen to like the really slow meditation music. Like go to Spotify, look for upbeat meditation music. Like you don't have to fall asleep to meditate. Like it's just really about regulating your breathing and your body. And so once I took away the agenda of what it was supposed to look like, and it was like, it's really just about spending time with you and honoring you, and your spiritual relationship, whatever that is. So I do that. And I mean, I move a lot. So I walk, I have an Australian Shepherd who, God willing, has not knocked over the camera or anything while we're here today. He's underneath my desk right now. So like homie needs to move. So I move with him. But I have learned, and even like my husband, God bless him. Like if I start to get cranky, he's like, maybe you should go for a walk.
You're like, oh,
like which one is it?
Yeah.
But, like it's when he can just kind of sense that I start to get that like really manic, oh my God, there's so much to do. How am I going to get it all done? This didn't go the way I wanted it to, energy. So those are the two ways that I manage my mental health is a lot of meditation, and moving my body. And for me, it was walking, and I tried to make it something more. I was an athlete. So it was like, walking's not enough, right? Like if I'm not dripping in sweat and like can't walk, it wasn't a word. And now I'm like, we're just going to go for a walk. So that's how I manage my mental health.
I love that. I think that's so important. And like, obviously there's lots of successful women on the online space. And I think when you're like just starting out or you're having just like a dip in your business, it can be so challenging to like navigate that as inspiration. Like, So like, what have you found to work really well of like stepping out of imposter syndrome and like using other people's success as like inspiration and evidence that this is possible? Because we're still human and it still happens. And it's something I hear all the time from women. They're like, oh my gosh, I'm in my own head. I have so much imposter syndrome, like all the things.
So two things there for you, Nellie. One, imposter syndrome to me is just like curiosity, right? Like what is causing the imposter syndrome, right? Is it, I'm watching Nellie kick ass, take names, and have a newborn, but meanwhile I have a newborn and I can barely function, right? Like, okay, but what's going on there, right? Like, how can you take care of you in that moment? That's not about showing up like Nellie, but serving you, right? So to me, I always encourage people to meet imposter syndrome with curiosity. Like what is underneath that story, right? Or maybe you launched a business at a similar time as somebody else and they're farther along than you, right? So instead of making her wrong or making you wrong, it's, gosh, I wonder what's going on there, right? Like with me, again, I'm not going to try to figure out anybody else because it's not my business to do so, right? It's always internal. It's getting curious with myself and not judging myself, right? I'm not judging myself for feeling less than, or I'm not judging myself for feeling a little envious of that person. I'm like, I wonder what's under that. Like, I wonder where that feeling is coming from. And when we meet it with curiosity and start to really question our way through it, we learn our own limiting beliefs, which is exciting because once we know what they are, then we can start to change them. Right? So if you find yourself continually feeling triggered by the same activity by somebody else over and over and over again, it's an opportunity for you to be like, okay, what limiting belief is under here that I need to dig out so I can get rid of it? That's really how I recommend imposter syndrome just in general. And then the second one, and this is maybe a little petty, but it's not intended to be, like the internet is literally the highlight reel, right? Like as somebody who has served, there's the Australian Shepherd for you. As somebody who has served, multiple seven-figure businesses, it's probably not as pretty behind the scenes as you're making it out to be, right? Like you think, and not that it can't be. So it's like a double-edged sword, right? Like I hate to say that because somebody's like, oh gosh, well, I'm going to get there and it's still going to be a hot mess. Like we're still humans having a human experience, no matter how much money is in our bank account, right? Like period, end of. So this idea that you know, it's easier for her, or once I get there, it'll be easier for me. Like those things are all just stories you're telling yourself, because there's different challenges at different levels for all different reasons. And so that's really kind of how I encourage people, is like, you're seeing one slice, right? Like one slice of people's lives, and take the positive from that and leave what doesn't serve you, right? Because my whole story now, like, and I used to be the same way. It was like, oh, you know, because she's winning, I can't. And like, just shift that into, because she's winning, I can.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that was so good. Yes. It's evidence, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yes.
And I also find, like, because I'm human too, and like these thoughts creep into my mind. And like, I love the curious part for you that you spoke on, because when those start creeping in, I literally immediately turn off my phone. I'm like, my brain is screaming at me that I need a mental break. Like it's overstimulated. It's not thinking clearly. I'm probably hungry. I probably need a nap. Like, you know, there's, you know, just even that simple of a solution. I can come back to social with like, start scrolling and be like, yeah, she's crushing it. And like, go girl. Like, so it's just like, when our needs aren't taken care of, we're not ourselves. Like, it's totally like the Snickers commercial. Like, you need a Snickers. Like, and it might not be, you know, a candy bar, but like, when your needs aren't met, we can go to a really dark place. And it's just like a cry for help from your body and your brain of like, we need some recalibration here.
And I will add one more thing to that, because I find myself doing this quite a bit when I scroll on social. Is there's so many cool people doing so many cool things that it makes me second guess what I'm doing. Like, ooh, maybe we should do that. Maybe we should try this. Like at some point in time, the onslaught of information becomes, it's no longer productive, right? When it's no longer like inspirational, it starts to be, you start to question, maybe I'm doing it wrong. Maybe there's a better way to do it. Oh my gosh, that girl's copy said that this should be happening and that's not happening for me. So maybe I'm doing it wrong. Like, just really, it's a lot of trust in yourself, right? That like, that can work for that person, but what I'm doing is working for me. And so I have to, that's my sign to turn it off. When I start to like change my business model based on like somebody's 90-second TikTok, it's like time to put it down and walk away.
You message your team, we're changing every.
Oh, sometimes I don't even message them. I just do it. And they're like, what the hell happened? And I'm like, so I watched this TikTok and it was really great. And they're like, oh, sweet Jesus, Ryan. God bless them.
Yes, I love it so much. We actually just had a team meeting on some shifts yesterday. It wasn't from a TikTok, but it was internally. So it's just like, but it's like listening to your own compass and being so sure, which is not always easy when you're not pouring into you. So it's like, we are the strategy. Like the more we take care of us as women, that internal belief system and that compass just becomes stronger and stronger and stronger, which is huge.
And it's so funny because that's the solution. The more we take care of ourselves, I'm literally like writing it down because that's the solution. But we think that the solution is more of this and more of that and more time and more and more and more and more and more and change and be somebody different. But really, like you said, the more we take care of ourselves, the better we serve ourselves, the better results we're going to get from whatever it is we do in all the areas of our life. And I don't want to say it was not an argument, but there was a woman, like I posted on social media, that busy is a choice, right? And so, and this woman is, and it's kind of funny to me because I know she's a mental health professional, which is a little terrifying, but she's like, yeah, but, you know, but I have 2 kids and I have this and I have that and I have that, you know, and I was like, cool, that's your choice. Like, I also have 2 kids. I also run 2 businesses. I also sleep 8 hours every night. I read 2 books a week. I walk 3 miles every day. Like, busy is a choice. And she's like, yeah, but your kids are little, you know, like it was just, she was holding on for dear life, her story of how busy she was. And because we live in a world where that's what we're told, right? If you're not busy, you're not making money. If you're not busy, you're not doing it right. If you're not busy, you're slacking somewhere, right? Like that's what we've been programmed to believe by watching the internet and dealing with all of those things. And so it, you know, full disclosure, like I have lunch after this and the rest of my day is wide open and like I'm already twitching because it's like, go for a walk, take a nap, tackle my to-do list. But like, I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do with the 4 hours between that lunch and my kids come home, right? Like my body's like, my nervous system is like, ah! But because we're taught to be busy, like the idea that like, I should just go take a walk and take a nap and be done for the day. Like I still can't even wrap my head around that. And I've been working really hard. So I don't know where I was going with that one, but it's a really important conversation.
Yeah. But again, that's going back to being a rebel. Like,
yeah.
And busy, I think gets a bad rep. Busy can be good. Like you're going to be busy walking. You're going to be busy with your kids. So it's like choosing, because we're always going to fill the time with something. Like as humans, like white space does not exist because it will be filled with something. So it's being mindful of like, where do you want to like fill your time to be, quote unquote busy. Like
yes.
I love teaching. Let's fill your life in first. Then we work around that to work your business. Like, because when it goes with you and you're not trying to swim upstream and you're actually going truly with the flow, you actually make more and it feels so much better. Like if you want to be home when your kids get home and have snack with them, then we're going to plug that into your calendar. If you don't, you don't. Like, so it's just like, I love that you're speaking up and being a rebel online because it's so needed and you're going to get pushback, which is not always easy. But I think again, like it just all roads lead back to like, since you're so solid in your mindset, you're okay with the mind. You're okay with the pushback and you're not going to take it personally.
No.
So it's huge.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Well, I could talk to you all day. So, but I do want you to have to go to lunch and enjoy yourself. So you have an amazing ebook. Can you tell us more about that? Where to find you on social, connect with you, all the things?
Yeah. So I wrote an ebook called The Self-Leadership Principles. So when I started kind of my spiritual journey out of coming out of a business divorce, and it's all in the ebook if you want to read about it. I really started analyzing like, why can some people be given the same information and the same coaching and the same access, and one person takes it and goes on to build, $800,000 a year business, and another person takes it and can barely make back the investment that they paid into the program, right? That's what really it started it. And it all came down to like the relationship with yourself, right? Like the women who were like, okay, I know how to take this, take what I need, leave what I don't, and go execute, versus the people who were either what I was teaching was out of alignment for them, or they had their own imposter syndrome or their own lack of, their own limiting beliefs that were prohibiting them. So what I really drilled down to after like a year of asking myself the same question of like, what's the difference? It's these 6 principles, and they're not new principles by any stretch of the imagination. It's really leaning into self-awareness, self-trust, personal responsibility, self-concept, growth mindset, and emotional intelligence are all 6 principles, but it's really like, how do we master those things for ourselves first so that we can lead others? And I use the word lead loosely, Nellie, because we can lead from any seat in the room, right? Like, I don't care if you are a solopreneur who is home alone with 2 toddlers right now, like you are a leader in your family. You're leading those timely humans, right? You're leading those people online who are deciding whether or not they want to work with you, right? So, don't get hung up on leadership being a position or a title. Like as a business owner or a aspiring business owner, you are a leader. You are a leader as a mom. You are a leader. As a human in your community, you are a leader. But like that relationship with ourselves is really encapsulates this entire conversation we've had here today. So that's really what's in the ebook, is it breaks them down and gives you some really good journal kind of prompts and things to work on as to how to improve that relationship with yourself so that you can go out into the world and share your gift in a powerful way.
I love that so much. Where can they find the ebook?
It's uncensoredconsulting.com/leadership.
Okay, good. We'll make sure we put it in the show notes as well, so we can find it easily, because that sounds so incredibly juicy. And then where do you hang out most on social?
I'm a Facebook girl through and through and through.
Okay.
So I'm on Facebook. Connect with me there. It's Ryann with 2 N's Dowdy. Our Be in the Room community. We do have a Facebook community there called Be in the Room. Our marketing agency, we are launching a Facebook group right now, so we can kind of funnel information in 2 different directions depending on who wants to hear what from us. But for now, I share all things marketing and being a badass woman leader on Facebook.
Yes, I love that. And I always love to end my podcast episodes with guests of like, what's the one piece of advice that has just like helped you the most, that either you discovered or somebody shared with you, that has just been the most impactful? I know it's hard to pick.
I know. I'm like, how can I dial this down into, one sentence?
I know.
I think the best piece of advice is like, who do you let sit at your table, right? Like being really mindful of who gets your time, energy, and attention. Because, we always say that like time is our most valuable asset, or money is our most valuable asset. I believe our energy is our most valuable asset. And if we wind up with the wrong people at our table, we wind up with energy leaks that we don't have energy to pour into the things we do love, like our children, like our businesses, like our spouses, like our families. So to me, the best advice is like being mindful of who you let in, is really, really important, because that could be a really big energy leak.
I could not agree more. So good. So make sure you grab Ryann's ebook. You will not be disappointed. Follow her on Facebook. Equally not disappointed. Thank you for building so much evidence and belief that you can do this while building a family and, loving and living your life. It truly is so important for women to see this. So thank you for being just that bright light on social media.
Thank you, Nellie. Thanks for inviting me to be here.
Absolutely. Bye, Ryann.